The Filipino Flash is back as Nonito Donaire completes a comeback against Chile's Andres Campos to win the WBA interim bantamweight title. While all eyes are on Manny Pacquiao, with boxing's only 8-division world champion eyeing a comeback after a 4-year layoff by chasing a world title opportunity in July 19th. Now, boxing analyst Nissi Icasiano joins us live via Zoom to talk about the sweet science today. It's a beautiful day, Nissi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Paolo, indeed, it's a beautiful day and thanks for having me.
All right, Nissi, let's start off first with the younger of the two Filipino boxers, itong si Nonito Donaire, winning by technical decision to win the interim WBA bantamweight title. It is a victory that personally, just watching Nonito Donaire's fights in the past few years prior to this, it felt nice seeing him win again. It feels like it's been a while. Your thoughts on the comeback victory?
Well, in boxing, Paolo, fighters are often separated into two distinct categories. It's either you're a good boxer or you're a great boxer, or in the case of Nonito Donaire, he undoubtedly belongs in the category of a great boxer because he's an exceptional fighter. It's a label that I don't hand lightly, Paolo. His performance this past weekend against Andres Campos was yet another testament to that greatness. Despite coming off a 2-year layoff and back-to-back losses, the essence of what made Nonito Donaire a special fighter was still on full display. I won't sugarcoat it. The signs of age and ring rust were evident in that bout, but his experience and his signature qualities as a seasoned pugilist helped him navigate that bout with poise. We still caught glimpses of the vintage Nonito Donaire. Even at this stage of his career, he was noticeably quicker than his 28-year-old opponent. When Campos tried to apply pressure and rough him up, Nonito stayed sharp, always ready with a counter punch. That dangerous left hook of his was still alive and well. If not for that anticlimactic ending, that's the term, anticlimactic, in the ninth round, I truly believe Donito would have coasted to a clear-cut unanimous decision. The official scores were closer than they should have been. The judges were a little too generous to Campos, in my opinion, but if the fight had gone the full 12, the outcome was firmly in Nonito's favor. And going back to my point, when you speak of great boxers like Nonito Donaire, they don't simply fold against the younger generation. They make these young lions like Andres Campos earn their stripes the hard way.
Yeah, I was worried about that, just talking about si Donaire, because apart from the back-to-back losses, by the way, they weren't in slouches. It was always that fighting spirit that we know Nonito Donaire to have. But then my worry at 42 years old is that you talked about signature a while ago, and one of the signatures for me when I talk about Nonito Donaire is that he has that really lethal snapshot. You mentioned his counter-punching in particular. You take a look at that. The signs of aging, you mentioned it. Is it going away, or is it something that's always going to be a part of his game? Because we still would compare him to the Nonito Donaire of old.
Yeah, again, Father Time is undefeated. They always say that in sports in general. But Nonito Donaire continues to compete at the highest levels of this sport because of his unwavering commitment to the sport. Let us emphasize the word commitment, because later on, I'm pretty sure we'll touch on another boxing legend set to make a return to the ring next month. But before that, Paolo, it's worth emphasizing just how remarkable Donaire's dedication truly is, because he understands that with age comes the need to treat his body differently. This includes adjustments in his training, training regimen, nutrition, and overall approach. He is no longer using the same method he used a decade or two ago.
Yeah.
So these crucial changes have allowed to extend his shelf life as a boxer, and at the same time, give Father Time a run for his money. As I mentioned earlier, his level of discipline and commitment is extraordinary. unparalleled. That's the right term. Donaire even shared or even went on record before that when he commits to a strict diet, his entire family, including his wife Rachel and their children, joins him in that lifestyle.
You know,
So
Nissi,
that,
sorry, I have to interrupt you there because you're
yeah,
absolutely right on that. But then, in the interest of time, we're going to have to speed this up a bit because he will be facing either Antonio Vargas or Daigo
yeah,
Higa. So he'll have to subject his whole family to a diet again as well. But
yeah,
when we take a
yeah.
look at the next potential matchup, any quick preview of who those two are and who could be the better matchup for Nonito Donaire?
Well, oh yes, as you mentioned, Antonio Vargas, the lineal WBA bantamweight champion or the undisputed WBA bantamweight champion. He's fighting Daigo Higa later this month. I don't see Nonito Donaire backing down from either of them. In terms of skill and intrigue, Vargas presents a fascinating challenge. He's a rising talent worth watching. The American of Mexican and Puerto Rican descent has climbed the ranks by facing tough opponents. Nothing has come easy for him. But if you're after an all-out slugfest, clash with Daigo Higa would be a thrilling choice for Donaire. Higa always comes to brawl, swinging with bad intentions, and when you if you mix that with Nonito's power, you get that perfect recipe for a fan-pleasing war.
All right, so let's now move on to another boxing legend, Manny Pacquiao, who is coming back after a 4-year layoff in the pros. Last time he had a fight was back in 2021 when he had a matchup against Cuba's Yordenis Ugas, and he has had exhibition matches right in between this particular fight on July 19 and that last one against Ugas. Ring rust, are we going to expect that for Manny Pacquiao, or is that something that his experience will hopefully compensate for?
Well, as I mentioned a while ago, commitment. That's that's a place of concern when it comes to on the part of Manny Pacquiao because he's 46 going up against an opponent 17 years younger. While it's true that Manny Pacquiao has beaten younger fighters before, he hasn't looked like his old self in years. His last truly vintage performance was back in July 2019, if I'm not mistaken, when he outclassed Keith Thurman.
Yeah.
Another concern is the time he spent away from the ring. Two fights come to mind. Again, you mentioned it. Your Dennis Ugas fight after a 2-year layoff. In that fight, his timing was off. His footwork lacked sharpness. He seemed hesitant in that bout. That night, he was originally scheduled to face Errol Spence, and had that happened, the outcome could have been far more dangerous for Manny Pacquiao. The second example is his exhibition match last year against a Japanese kickboxer. Yes, a Japanese kickboxer in Rukia Anpo. He absorbed far too many clean shots, punishment that, in my opinion, no fighter should be taking at that stage of their career. Now, don't get me wrong, Manny Pacquiao is a once a generation talent, but being removed from the grind of professional boxing, coupled with numerous commitments outside the ring, that allowed Father Time to finally catch up to him. And this is a man who's long defied the limits of athletic longevity, but even legends have their limits. We talked about Nonito Donaire a while ago. We can also touch about George Foreman, Archie Moore, and Bernard Hopkins. But the common denominator among this great man, is that they remain as boxers.
Yeah.
And my another primary concern that we can add to the fact that he would just have 2 months to prepare for this fight. So that concerns me on the part of Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Nissi, in terms of concerns, because we're running out of time, so we're going to have to bundle up a bunch of questions here, and hopefully we can touch on all those points. First of all, obviously that fearless forecast, I believe everyone understands that Manny Pacquiao is going into this one as a underdog. and is not predicted by a lot of people to actually come out with the result. When you take a look at the fact that this is also his tallest opponent, I believe might be his first 6-footer that he's actually boxing against in a professional fight and not an exhibition matchup. Will that be a factor? And two, will we see another Pacquiao performance when he takes down the much bigger foe like we've seen in the past?
Well, under normal circumstances, Paulo, you would always choose Manny Pacquiao over any opponent. But given where he stands today and factoring in Barrios elements, I don't like his odds against Mario Barrios. Barrios holds the WBC welterweight title for a reason. He's a solid fighter, not exactly a once-in-a-generation talent, but definitely a skilled boxer. For a young and hungry boxer like Barrios, an aging Manny Pacquiao makes an ideal target. And had this taken place during Manny's prime or even in his late 30s, he would have schooled Barrios with ease. But at this stage, Manny would need to defy time, expectations, practically move heaven and earth to silence doubters and beat Barrios.
Well, Nissi, as a Filipino sports fan, I hope you're wrong. So, but of course,
As a Filipino, Paulo, I hope Manny Pacquiao proves me wrong.
Yeah, 1,000%, Nissi, and of course, we'll see whether or not he can delay Father Time by a bout more coming July 19. We really appreciate your takes. We really appreciate your analysis, and hopefully we can have you again soon, Nissi. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.